Today we're going to take a look at two of the best brushes on the market today. It's a hobby challenge head-to-head, Winsor Newton versus Citadel. Welcome back, Hobby Maniacs. Baer here again today with a fresh tutorial. There hasn't been a new rulebook drop in a while, so we're going back into the tutorials, digging deep into those archives and getting out all that footage that we've been recording for the past couple of months as Games Workshop's just been putting out a deluge of freaking supplements and codexes. This has been crazy. It's an exciting time, and winter's going to be even crazier with all this stuff we're seeing. For all the Prospero stuff and maybe Plastic Sisters, who knows what's coming out. It's an exciting time. Like, I am super hyped. But for now, we're going back into archive, we're going deep, and we're going to talk about some brushes, because that's the burning question for a lot of people. Like, is Winsor Newton brushes as good as Games Workshop / is Games Workshop just as good as Winsor Newton when it comes to the new Artificer brushes, which pretty much cost the same? Now here you can see two brushes that are rumored to be very similar and also the same company that makes them. It's rumored that Winsor Newton actually makes the Artificer brushes for Games Workshop. Don't exactly know if it's true or not, but I wanted to compare the two while I was working on my Ogre Wars project, my Beast Claw Raiders project. So I went ahead and used them in this video and kind of showed you basically doing the same thing with each, trying to dog them out, trying to get one of them to break, and you will see the results in this video. Now, I'm not sure at this point if my little tips and tactics video has come out on Beats Lab Tech, basically showing you my Beats Lab, showing you how I set up my mobile Beats Lab when I want to go, to another place and paint, like a friend's house or like a game store or something here locally, which I tend to do a lot because, as you can imagine, sitting around with the cats all day gets a little boring. They hunt me for sport. So sometimes I just have to leave. I gotta get out of here, help me. Anyways, but one of the things I do to protect my brushes is I grab this toothbrush holder from Walmart, for going portable. But the cool thing is it also fits toothbrushes, strangely enough, right? So, I feel like it was made for paintbrushes the whole time, right? So if you put your paintbrushes in here and you prop it in whatever you're transporting your stuff in, the tips won't get mashed. Nobody likes a mashed tip, let's be honest. And they will protect your stuff, but they won't go all over your containers and things like that. So that's just one little pro tip for keeping, along with using the appropriate soaps / shampoos for your paints to keep them in great working order. So let's jump right into today's hobby tutorial. It's a head-to-head Winsor Newton versus Citadel. So here's the two bad boys right here. We've got the Series 7 Winsor Newton, what is this, number 1 brush, which is comparable to the GW Artificer Layer medium brush. Now this one's $26 retail. This one you can get off Amazon for like 17, 18 bucks, give or take, plus shipping and all that, unless you have Prime and things. But if you look right there, they look very similar, and it was long rumored that these GW brushes were indeed Winsor Newtons, because they are both made in England. Now, I've already used both of these a little bit. I've been playing around with the brushes. I personally like both. I think they're great brushes. There's a lot of folks out there that believe in quantity over quality. But I'm kind of the opinion that, like, you get a good brush, you take care of it, it'll take care of you. So here's a closer look at the two brushes right here. Okay, there's the Winsor Newton and there's the GW brush. Now, one of the things to keep in mind is you always want to make sure that you clean your brushes. You got a brush cleaner, Master's brush cleaner is great stuff here. It's a soap, it's a solid. I've literally had this for like 10 years. Like, I just get the bristles wet, just kind of put it in there, not to like mash up the bristles, and then just kind of work the soap through the bristles themselves and then rinse it off. It's literally that simple. You get a little. It's just like washing your hands. You just get a little lather on it. You're good to go. You can get this stuff for like $5. I mean, it's even if you have normal, air quotes, normal brushes. It's still worth picking this up because it at least extend the life of your brushes in some meaningful way. You know, now I realize, you know, a $5 brush is a $5 brush, but you know, it'll save you a trip to the store, maybe one less trip a week or something like that. So we're gonna take a look at these and break these down because today we're going to base coat this ogre for my Beast Claw Raiders. The trick here and why this is such a good test for these two particular brushes is that the flesh tone needs to be built up with like 3 consecutive colors because it's so light. Flesh is so light to begin with. And another problem is that there's so many nooks and crannies here underneath these armor plates, underneath the arm, underneath the helmet, you know, in between here in the head, back over here underneath, more underneath, like it's just so. And then the little mitts themselves right here, the little hands, you know, all this combines to really make a lot of different I guess conditions that would really put a brush through its paces, because you need something that has a lot of coverage but also something that can get in there and be really detailed. So this particular task, I'm kind of breaking up my how to paint Ogre King or Ogre tutorial in the middle here, because this is such a great point to really try out these two different brushes and kind of in a little hobby head to head. So now that I've set the framework for you, let's get our colors together and start working. So first up is going to be some Raycarth Flesh, because this is a really good covering color. It's a base color similar to the old G-Dub foundations, and it's really going to get in there and it's going to set the base work for the next layer, which is Keystillate Flesh. Okay, now none of this means anything to y'all because you just want to see the brushes. So let's get in there and see how they do. So I'm taking the G-Dub Artificer layer. Obviously I'm putting it in my mouth to make a tip, but conversely you can always make a tip out of when you grab your paints. Now I'm kind of, you know, I'm keeping the little palette here fresh because it's still pretty watery, but I'm pulling it and then I'm making a point on the palette here, which these are just water cap bottle tops. Like they, you know, inexpensive, super easy to use, you know, nothing too crazy. Now I'm going to get in here. I'm going to do the left side with the Artificer brush, and I guess we'll do the right side with the Winsor Newton brush. So I'm just, because like I said, there's so many nooks and crannies here to really get in and take care of and get in here and work around the metals, because we airbrushed the metals earlier in the tutorial for getting these guys up to tabletop standard. But you can see here, like I'm getting in here, I'm working these angles. The tip is staying pretty tight. It's still pretty tight there. Given my coverage, I'm pretty satisfied. Like I said, I'm satisfied with both of these brushes, to be quite honest. Like I couldn't tell you if they're exactly the same exact brush. I mean, we need a microscope or something to figure that out, right? So like I said, it's getting in there. It's got good coverage, like I was saying. I'm gonna rinse this brush off a little bit. Now, interesting side note here. So the whole deal with, you know, everybody's all like sable, you know, sable hair, it's the best shit, right? Sable. Sable hair, I guess, is like some sort of or the sable is some sort of relation to the minks or something like that. Like they're basically only found in the plains of China, like Mongolia and such, right? You can actually find out, there's a pretty interesting article. Caleb from White Metal Games researched this whole thing over on Spiky Bits. And of course, you know, I read it like 2 years ago, edited the article. And of course, now I'm just paraphrasing everything. But basically, long story short, what I wanted to tell you was that the best hairs that aren't synthetic to use are actually, you know, the sable hairs that everybody always rants and raves about. But here's the funny part that a lot of people don't realize. These are actually butthole hairs. Yes, these are literally the best hairs to paint with, are the hairs that are around the butt of this animal. So think about that for a second. We're all like fighting and scrambling for these really good brushes and putting them in our mouths even, and it's literally the butthole hairs of these animals. What a crazy, ironic thing to even think about. And I don't care. Whatever. My cats routinely do interestingly disgusting things to me, so I feel like a minx is pretty much like a cat, so I'm okay with it personally. Now, getting back to the test here, it looks like the little bristles are still kind of holding strong here, and I'm not pulling any punches here. Like, I'm going flat, I'm going to the side, I'm getting into cracks. I'm doing things that normal brushes couldn't handle, to be quite honest. Like, I wouldn't do this with a normal brush. So I'm already pretty happy with the fact that it's kept up this strong, still holding the point. Now, I'm rinsing my brush out a lot because, you know, I really feel like that's something that you just need to do. You need to keep that, you really need to keep that going. And I'm gonna get in here, and I feel pretty confident with this whole base coat here. Like I said, still holding strong, not splitting. Like, I am abusing this, don't get me wrong. Like, if we're going for a test drive, we're going for a freaking test drive. Like, we're gonna get in there, we're gonna work it. We're not gonna be all dainty with it. All right, so there's that. So got a nice solid base coat. Now, it doesn't have to be, you know, on the technique side, it doesn't have to be super flat, or even, it can be slightly splotchy because I'm gonna come back with that other color over top of it. So we're gonna rinse this out. Take a look at the bristles here. Let's see what we got. I mean, it really looks like it's holding its color, it's holding its shape. I mean, when I press it down, it's just almost starting to kind of fish hook right there, to kind of separate at the tip. Now, granted, I'll put it back in my mouth and I can pull it together, and it seems to hold pretty good, okay? So, like I said, I'm satisfied with this brush. $26 brush retail. This is basically an in-between base coating and detail brush, so to speak. That's my description of it. I don't know what the official description is, but there's that. And now up is Winsor Newton's turn. So we're gonna get in there, we're gonna do the other side. I'm gonna rinse this out just to clear off all the bee-hole hair mess. All right, back to the other side here. Same mix. Super fun, getting it all on the brush here, making a tip, making a fine point. There we go, I feel like that's looking good. And now we're gonna get up and underneath here and really put this brush through its paces. So I'm going flat with it, you can kind of see there. Getting in here, working these angles, trying to stay away from that airbrushed metal, because I actually feel like my mix is getting a little less juicy here. I need to juice it up a bit. Put some water in it. Now, granted, I should probably be using some sort of wet palette or a palette paper or something. You can use the palette paper by itself, dry, right? G-Dub's actually got some palette paper that's pretty clutch, judging by the way Duncan uses it on his tutorials. I would like to try some of it myself, but unfortunately it couldn't quite be on camera because it'll really mess up the focusing and stuff. But maybe that could be another tutorial or a hobby head-to-head we can run in the future. Now, coming in here, hitting the flats now, using that tip to work the lines of the metal. Right there you can see, still holding strong, still a contender. I'm liking this brush. Definitely takes some abuse. Now, I went over that spot right there. It's supposed to be brown, but that's okay. We're gonna come back and tighten that up. Now getting the underneath. That's why I said this is such a brutal like tryout for a brush, because you really got to get all these different angles. You're getting underneath. You're working very fine lines right here to where straps and such should be. This is really a good tryout. I'm super stoked about this. So let's get up in here, and I really should be pulling this back to me. Remember, always move your piece, not your brush. You want to be pulling your brush roughly in the same direction, just so you're not messing things up. And then here on this hand, this is all going to be brown right here, so I can kind of overlap it. And that's what's cool about when you base coat, knowing where you can overlap and knowing where you need to hold that fine line. And then right here, still holding the line. I mean, look at that right there. Boom. It's just like, yep, I got this. I'm not splitting. I'm not doing anything. We're good, dog. And then hitting the base coat, and it's going in the cracks. I mean, I'm covering a lot of area, a lot of like different types of depth with this brush here, and it's holding strong, not getting wrecked around here. There we go. Okay, good. And back to here. I'm liking it. Nice flat area right here to try it out on. I'll rinse this out. Now, what I can tell you is that the Winsor Newton, the shaft, the heft, the stem, whatever you want to call it, I'm not a brushologist. I don't know all the terms for these things. I couldn't tell you why there's a metal piece here and a not metal piece here. I assume from my engineering background, this is how they keep the bristles together. I don't know what kind of Tom Cruise Ridgecraft does it here, except for the fact that I would assume that this is a plastic molded piece that keeps it all together on a cost-effective basis. But I can tell you that this brush is super light, obviously plastic. This brush is heavier because it's got some sort of metal component to this, but this is definitely not plastic. It has a lot of heft, well, more heft to it. We're not talking like metal, but you can tell right there, there's definitely a difference in weight to the two, just judging by the sound, right? So there is that. I feel like there's actually something more in my hand when I use this brush as opposed to this one right here. Now, looking back at the bristles, like I said, this literally looks like the same brush, just a plastic one versus the one made of the material that we just talked about, right? As far as the bristles go, I mean, they're still holding strong. I'm mashing down on it with my thumb. They're spreading out, which wouldn't be anything out of the ordinary for when you're, you know, doing painting. And then, you know, you basically pull it back together with your paint and things when you're twirling the tip on your palette there, right? Now, pulling this back together, I mean, it really looks, they're really still holding their tip. Now, granted, I didn't do anything. This is like, what, 10 minutes worth of work, give or take, 15 minutes maybe. So you can obviously tell they're not immediately falling apart, and they do seem to be of a higher quality than, say, some of the other brushes I use, like, you know, some of these Takalons or these synthetics and things like that that seem to get wrecked right out the gate, right? Now, from what I can tell, one doesn't appear to be better than the other at this current time. I will continue to use these throughout. I'm going to finish base coating this guy and then come back in and kind of give you my thoughts there. I'm not going to keep you on camera for, you know, base coating a man here. So I'm going to work on it a little bit more. We're going to come back and talk about it, kind of show you some of the things I did on this model. All right, so I went through and finished up base coating this bad boy, and you can see from all the nooks and crannies, like underneath the chin there, inside the helm, you know, around back of the neck, down into the shoulder down there, up under here, and there's even like some hidden spots on the wrist. Like, there's a lot of area to be covered here. Now, I'll show you the places I really brutalized this brush, and I'm still on the Winsor Newton Series 7, the number 1. So basically what I did was I came in here and I went straight in like a freaking javelin spear, and I just got in there and got underneath, because that was literally the only way to do it. That was the only way to get in there and get that flesh. There was no way to get to it from the sides or anything like that. So you can see once I did that, you know, the bristles split, right? So I'm like, that's weird. And then you can just put them back together just like that. But then we got this like random hair sticking out. I'm like, all right, rinse it off. Let's see what we can do here. Grab some more paint, make a tip on my palette, and there it is, back reformed, good to go, I feel like. So I'm gonna try to do some like fine lines right here, right after that brutalization, and I feel like I should be able to. And it looks like I can. Like, I'm not even seeing any separation or anything bad. So it's just like they reformed back together again, all good to go. And another thing I had to do was I had to like take this bristles and shove it down there like a kill shot from a sniper rifle down into here in this neck area, right? And I'm like, well, dang, that's gonna be messed up. So let me show you how I did that. I was just like, boom, just brutalizing it down into there and separating all these bristles out laying it flat. It didn't get as much, you know, separation, but you can see right there at the end, it kind of came apart. So again, let's put it back together, grab some more paint. Let me set up my, make my tip here, and some more fine lines maybe. Let's see, one. Oh, that was bad. That was brush control. That was me. Alright, we got some fine lines. Like, I feel like this is a good brush. And I did the same exact thing for the G-Dub. The Artificer, which again is supposedly the same as Winsor Newton Series 7 here. I put it through its same paces just like I showed you. And, you know, you can see when you mash them down, they separate. But you can pull them back together with paint, and they seem to work fine. Like, I have no clue what to think here. I think they're both great brushes. I'm going to continue to use them in all my projects as long as I can, because this is a really nifty mix of holding our sharp point, but also being able to hold a lot of paint and go flat over a lot of surface area here, right? Like, that you can see all over. And I'm very happy with that, to be quite honest. Like, I feel like they're both a good product. One's cheaper than the other, obviously being G-Dub, but I also feel like one's easily available in stores, one you have to order online for the most part, or go to like a super high-end art store where it probably would be about the same price as the Citadel brush. But like I said, Citadel's a lot more commonly available here in the States than maybe the Winsor Newton, so they got that going for them, I guess. I'm going to continue to use it, but right now I can't say with a clear conscience that one is better than the other, or that it's even a bad product in general, because I mean, these are some of the best brushes, if not the two best brushes I've ever used in my whole lifetime, to be quite honest. So again, the Artificer layer brush from Games Workshop, there's 3 different sizes. There's a medium, small, and an XL, which I think corresponds to the Series 7 number 1, number 2, and then I guess that would be a number 0 brush for detail as well. And they're both, like I said, available at art stores and GW stores pretty much everywhere that I can think of. Okay, so if you were wondering still about the hobby challenge or hobby head-to-head of the Winsor Newton Series 7 and Artificer layer brush here, the medium by Citadel. Well, I finished base coat and all the Mornfangs, or the squad of 4, or 3 rather, because I had already done the 1. And the brushes still look, I mean, they're still looking pretty good here, to be quite honest. Like, I haven't really had any issues with either of them, keeping them nice and fresh, you know, shampooing them and everything. Like, haven't had any issues. Pretty much loving the quality of the brush. This is good. This is good stuff right here, and I guess I'd be happy with either of these, to be quite honest. I keep going back and forth, you know, trying to blind taste test which one I like more, and I haven't really been able to have a preference quite yet. But again, there's still plenty more detail work to go on this project, so I will try to check back in the video comments and let you guys know what I think of one over the other.
Deleted scenes, bonus content, and all the interviews and post-game wrap-up videos can be located in the Hall of Veterans on thelongwar.net. Visit thelongwar.net today and try a week completely free with no strings attached. That's not all. Thelongwar.net is also your hobby resource for exclusive early access with an ad-free experience to all your favorite videos. Members of the Hall of Veterans gain early exclusive access to multiple hobby videos,